What's up guys, Matt here, over here at the cabinet shop today, and I'm about to make a video on showing you how to make a DIY jig to drill holes in these doors right here to install knobs and to install knobs on this. We aren't going to be doing any pulls today, we're just going to be doing knobs. I believe I'll be able to make a jig for the drawers also that go on the top row, the larger drawers that go down the bottom. I probably will have to hand drill those or make a different jig, and I do not have a drawer here at the shop to cut out a jig for that one. So let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is determine where we want our knobs. And I believe that I want the knobs to be directly in line with this cross rail here and dead in the center of this one. I'm gonna measure from the edge to right here, not all the way to the edge of the profile here, but to the edge of the flat. We have 2 5/8 right there. So we need to mark 1 5/16, and then it's gonna be the same 2 5/8 down to the line. So we're gonna pull down 2 5/8 and mark right here. This will allow me to know exactly where to drill my template. Out of this 1/4 inch pre-finished plywood, and I'm gonna rip down some strips out of this maple scrap that we have left over to fasten up the side and across the top, and that will rest on top of the door, and then I will have a pre-drilled hole here, which I'll show you how to get that hole. And these templates are universal. You could use this for multiple different jobs, and you could have multiple holes for different jobs based on the size of the rail and style on your cabinet door. We will have to make 2 of these because you will need one for your right door and one for your left door. So we've got the table saw right here set on 4 inches. There's no reason why I'm setting it on 4 inches. That's just a simple number that I came up with. Got to keep my blade low for safety. Okay, so now we have our 2 pieces here. All right, guys, so this maple right here is approximately 3/4 stock. So I'm just gonna use it here as a guide, and I'm gonna move my saw over and set this saw guide right here at about 3/4. There's no science behind this, and I'm actually gonna get out a push stick to run this through. Let's set our saw up a little bit higher. There we go. I will use a push stick on this one because that's getting your fingers very close to the blade, and I'm not trying to lose any fingers today. All right, so next I'm gonna take this plywood that I've made here, and I'm gonna fasten 1 piece here, and I'm gonna fasten 1 piece here as to make a perfect right angle to go on top of the doors. Do not worry about this hanging over or this being short. We can trim that off in the table saw or on the chop saw to make them look better and not hang over. You want to make sure that it is perfectly flush with the top. Before I staple this anymore, I'm gonna take my square here, stick this square in here, and make sure that that doesn't need any minor adjustments for being square. And it did look great, so let's go ahead and fasten a couple more staples in here. Now I'm gonna repeat this process on this next one, but I will do it opposite so it looks completely opposite from this one. All right guys, I'm gonna step back over here to the table saw. I'm gonna move this out, set it to where that will glide right through there. And we will need to raise the blade just a little bit more to compensate for the thickness of the plywood. And there we go, you've cut them off perfectly flush. We can run them through this way and cut this off too if you'd like. Let's go ahead and do that just for show. And ta-da! You have both your jigs right here. I'm gonna go over here to the 3M sander, run it over the edges just a little bit just to clean these up where there's no splinters that'll get in my fingers, mainly when I'm out on the job site doing the drilling and the install. We have both of our little jigs made. Let me show you how they fit on here. I'm gonna open up this cabinet door right here, and it sets right on top, just like this right here. And we can mark that. And what we can do is we will drill right through here with our first hole. Then we can take our jig, set it on top of here, open it, push our drill bit through from the back side, and it will drill through the front of our jig. Or we could just measure our jig from the inside. You can do either way, whatever is easiest for you. I'll show you both ways. It is beneficial to use a pilot point or a brad point drill bit so you don't blow the back of the door out so bad when you're drilling through. Your screw that goes through will cover most of it, but you do not want to have a bad chip out on the back. So this first one, we are just going to drill through here, if I can get it to stay still. And you can see that there is minimal chip out. And you do want to use a drill bit that's the proper size. You want it to be a little bit of wobble. This way you can tighten. You don't want the threads of these screws gripping that wood as you go through. It's very hard to get it tightened down. It will pull all the way through, and it's just, I've done it before. It's not the way to do it. You want it to just, your drill bit to be a fraction larger. And currently, I'm using these DeWalt pilot point bits here. I'm using a 3/16 inch bit. I'm gonna have to set the camera down here, and I'll put this on this door, and I'll show you exactly how we're gonna drill it out for the pattern. I'm gonna take my jig, place it on here tight. I'm gonna take my drill, come through from the back side, and boom. There's your pilot hole right there. It is gonna bust out on that plywood a little bit, but you can go back. Just went right up under my fingernail. Don't do that. Okay, now I'm gonna show you the second method, which will be to actually mark and measure and then drill through. You're gonna need to do this on the back side, because if you do it on the front side, you must allow for the thickness of your wood here, or you will boo-boo your door and you'll be crying all the way back to the door shop, paying and purchasing another door. Like I told you earlier, we are drilling down 2 5/8 of an inch, and we are drilling over 1 5/16. So you want to come down 2 5/8, and then you want to measure over 1 5/16. And those measurements are based solely upon the rail and style of the doors I'm using. And there she is. I'm just gonna wipe a little bit of this chip off out, hopefully not to get it going under my fingernail this time. Let's take this and put it on the back of this door, and ta-da! So now I'm gonna take this jig, I'll put it on the front of my door right here, and I'll show you exactly how we're gonna drill it. So there we go. We have 2 perfectly even doors, and you can imagine how quick these jigs are gonna help you on the job. Now we're gonna make a jig for this drawer front right here. We're gonna use the same type plywood. We're gonna make it very similar, where we have a piece of wood right up here on top like this. That's gonna fasten onto the wood just like that. And then I'm gonna create another piece of wood that we can staple on the other side of this that will fit right down in here to keep it from moving and keep pressure on that. I've already measured the depth of this, and it is just a little bit fatter than 1/4 inch. And I measured the width of it, and let's put a tape on it one more time just to look at it. Almost 1 7/8 inches. So I'm gonna need something 1 7/8 inches wide here by about a thickness of about 1/4 inch, which I can rip right here on my table saw. Let's do that real quick, and I'll show you how I can put this together and make it work on the drawer as well. All right, we're just gonna cut a piece about that long so we'll have some extra scrap. I'm gonna run over here to the chop saw and chop that up real quick. Be right back. All right, I got my 2 pieces cut on the chop saw. They're gonna fit directly in there. They do not have to be tight fitting. It does not matter for the jig I'm making right here. I just made 2 to have them. And now I'm gonna make the top piece just like I made it the last time. We set the table saw to 3/4. I'll take this over to the chop saw as well and cut it to an appropriate length. Probably cut it to the same length as this piece right here so we won't have to do any further trimming. All right, guys, I flipped around here and we're gonna do the same process we did on the last jig. I'm going to staple it directly on top of here, just like we did on the last one. And this is what we'll set on top of the drawer. So there's that. Now I can take this over to the drawer and appropriately measure to where I want to fasten this piece on there. And this piece is only on here so that this doesn't push in the middle of that drawer. This does not have to be on there. It just gives you more of a guide for your drill bit when you're drilling through to the center of that door. All right, we have appropriately marked where we want this on here. And I do not have any fasteners at the shop that are thin enough to nail this. So what we're gonna do is take the stapler and I'm just gonna go ahead and shoot them all the way through because I only need about 3 or 4 in here to hold it anyway. And for time's sake and video's sake, I'm gonna do that. They are sticking out the back, but I'll go ahead and cut them off and sand them down flush so that you don't see them. All right, I got them all cut off and sanded them with just a little bit of 60 grit sandpaper. I'm gonna take my 3M sander, go over these edges just like I did the last one. No splinters, I do not like splinters. Another jig made that is going to fit directly in here. Some of you may be wondering, how am I gonna drill this one and get it in the right place? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a center line directly down the dead center of this, and I've also made it on the back, okay? Let's take our drawer front here, which we're working with, which all the drawer fronts at the Spec House are this same drawer front. So we know that this drawer front right here measures 6.5 inches. So the dead center of that is going to be 3.25 inches. So we're gonna flip our jig over, just like you see right here. And I have marked the cross line at 3.25 inches, and I've marked the up and down line at the dead center of this jig. So now I'm gonna drill the hole in this jig. So there we are, it's on the dead center there, and there, 3.25 inches down on that side, okay? Now, let's pull our drawer front over here, and y'all can see exactly what we've done. I've already pre-marked a mark right here in the middle, which we will not have that on our drawers at the Spec House. So I'm gonna stick this right here on top, and then I'm gonna take my tape, and I'm gonna pull it across here, 17.75. So we know half of 17.75 is 8 7/8. So right there is 8 7/8. Let's double check it by flipping it around. 8 7/8. So there we are. So now you can do one or two things. You can grip this with your hands. You can drill the hole through. Or you could clamp this on with a quick grip clamp if you do not trust yourself to hold it. I think that the hole will not be off more than a 1/16 of an inch if you're holding it with your hands, and no one but you will be able to tell that. I've showed you how to make a jig to drill the doors. I've showed you how to make a jig to drill the drawers. That's a tongue twister. Now, let's get in our time machine and let's go over here to the spec house and I'll show you exactly how to do this on the job site.